once lived an old fisherman that spent his afternoons casting his line into the deep, dark ocean from the cliffs above. His wife spent her afternoons chasing rodents out of their food pantry, mending their ragged clothes and cursing the run-down shack they lived in. Life was hard for the old couple, but where the fisherman had a glass-half-full outlook on life, his wife always saw the glass as half-empty. One warm afternoon, while the fisherman was enjoying the salty sea breeze, he felt a huge tug on his line. He took hold of his fishing rod and gave it a sharp yank, hoping to set the hook deep into the fish's mouth. The old man had been wrestling fish ashore ever since he was a young boy, so the struggle that ensued was unexpected. The rod was nearly bent to the point of breaking, and the line was sure to snap if the fisherman didn't land his opponent soon. With one last surge of strength, the old man heaved the line and the fight was over. Placing the rod at his feet, the fisherman walked to the edge and looked down. He rubbed his eyes, thinking the salty mist swirling about was fooling with his vision. There, lying on the shore below him, was an enormous golden fish with a glittering jewel-encrusted crown upon its head. The fisherman climbed down the broken boulders and slowly approached the behemoth. When he had walked within several yards of his capture, the magnificent fish began to speak.
"Please, good sir, I am a prince of the sea, a son of King Neptune himself. I would be most appreciative if you were to set me free."
The old fisherman couldn't believe his ears. He just stood there dumbfounded. The golden fish again repeated its plea for freedom. The old man cautiously replied, "I do apologize for your capture. I will gladly remove the steel hook from your mouth, but there is a far greater obstacle keeping you from returning to your home. In the short time you've lain ashore, the incessant beating of the ocean waves have pushed your great body further and further up the beach. I'm afraid I'm far too weak to assist you back into the water."
"Do not fret, good sir,"
replied the great fish.
"Simply remove the hook from my mouth. In a few hours' time, the tide will rise, allowing me to swim freely from this shallow cove."
So the fisherman removed the hook lodged in the fish's mouth and remained by its side to keep it company as they waited for the tide to rise. The old man told the fish about the modest shack he and his wife lived in, how he made a living selling his daily catch to the village grocer, and how, while being content himself, wished he could bring more happiness into the day of his poor wife.
"Why is she unhappy?"
asked the golden fish. "She is weary of our lot in life, I suppose. She often talks about wanting a better home, one where the cold winds don't blow through gaps in wood-planked walls, and cooking pots are not needed to catch rainwater dripping through poorly thatched roofs." The fish was silent for a moment, then proclaimed to the old man that when he returned home that night, he would find his shack gone, and in its place, a quaint cottage. The fisherman was overjoyed. He thanked the great fish profusely and wished it well. As the fisherman neared his home, he did indeed see a cottage where once his shack stood, and walking about the outside was his wife. She looked quite disorientated as she lightly touched and examined the exterior of the cottage. The fisherman told his wife all about the extraordinary events of his morning. When he had finished the story, his wife seemed tongue-tied for a minute before finally saying, "One moment, I was sweeping the dirt floor of our little shack, and the next moment I was sweeping the hardwood floor of this cottage." The fisherman laughed and gave his bewildered wife a big hug. The next few weeks were wonderful. The fisherman would return from selling his catch in the village to find his wife casually swaying on the porch swing, humming a tune as she mended their clothing. Everything seemed perfect to the fisherman, but as time passed, he noticed his wife's mood change. She began to smile less often. Their conversations became shorter, her complaints longer. One evening, as the fisherman puffed away on his pipe, he noticed his wife lost in thought. "What weighs on your mind, my dear?" he asked. "Oh, I've just been thinking about that golden fish. Is this cottage really a fair showing of gratitude for your having spared a son of Neptune?" The old man stopped rocking his chair and sat forward. "Husband, tomorrow, when you reach the cliffs, I want you to call out to that golden fish and ask that he grant you a wish." This made the fisherman uncomfortable. "And what am I to wish for, dear wife?" "You are to ask that fish for a larger home, a mansion made of stone with 15 bedrooms, a butler and staff to tend to our needs, and a lovely rose garden manicured to perfection for me to gaze down upon from my bedroom balcony." The old man could barely make sense of this sudden request. "Is this cottage not enough?" he asked. "No, it is not," she replied. The next morning, as he approached the rocky edge of the cliffs, the old man noticed the sun disappear behind a mass of clouds. He cupped his hands around his mouth and shouted, "O son of Neptune, hear my voice, for I am in need of your help." The sea began to froth and bubble with intensity as the golden fish rose from its depths.
"How may I help?"
asked the fish. "It is my wife. She has grown tired of our cottage and wishes for a mansion with servants and a garden," replied the old man.
"Return home,"
said the fish.
"You have what you wish."
The fisherman returned home to find a huge mansion where his cottage once stood. He entered through an ornately carved wooden front door and was immediately greeted by a man asking to take his coat and hat. 2 large staircases ran up the sides of the foyer, and at the top, looking down on him, was his wife. She was dressed in a beautiful satin gown with diamonds adorning her neck, wrists, and hands. "You look radiant, my dear," exclaimed the fisherman. "Go clean yourself and be ready to dine in the great hall in an hour. I trust you can dress appropriately," was his wife's reply. It was only 2 days' time before the fisherman's wife once again broached the subject of their home. She explained how someone of her stature should have more people serving her. She wanted to be a queen, live in a castle, and rule the lands as far as the eye could see. The old man protested, but was no match for his wife's will. He went to the golden fish and pleaded his request.
"Return home,"
said the fish.
"You have what you wish."
Surely his wife would be content now, thought the fisherman, but he was wrong, for the very next morning his wife awoke him with a new demand. The rain pelted the old man's face as he once again approached the cliffs. Peering over the rocky ledge, the ocean below churned and thrashed with huge swells. Before the old man could even summon the golden fish, he heard these words come up from the ocean's depths.
"What do you want now?"
"Great son of Neptune, my dear wife complains that the sun wakes her too early in the morning. She wishes to be its master, as well as the master of the moon and the stars above," shouted the fisherman. The great golden fish exploded out of the water.
"You ask too much,"
it shouted at the quivering old man.
"Return home, for you now have what you deserve."